Rain lashed against Rachel's windshield. The wipers fought a losing battle against the deluge. She was driving home from a late-night study session at the library. The storm had rolled in quickly, blanketing the usually familiar route home in an eerie darkness. A shiver ran down her spine as she glanced at the GPS. It directed her off the main highway and onto a narrow, unfamiliar road. "Must be a shortcut," she muttered, her voice barely audible above the howling wind. The further she drove, the more isolated the road became. Trees pressed in on either side, their branches clawing at her car like skeletal fingers. The rain intensified, blurring the world outside into a swirling vortex of grey and black. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles turning white. A sense of unease settled over her, heavy and oppressive. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong. The silence in the car was shattered by a burst of static from the radio. Rachel flinched, her nerves already on edge. She reached to turn it off, but a voice stopped her cold. A low, guttural voice, laced with an unnatural rasp, crackled through the speakers. "Turn back!" it warned, each word dripping with malice. "Turn back while you still can!" Rachel froze, her blood turning to ice. Her mind raced to find a rational explanation. A prank? A crossed signal? But deep down, a primal fear told her this was something far more sinister. The voice on the radio continued, its tone shifting from a warning to a menacing growl. "You shouldn't be here, child. This is not your path." The hairs on the back of Rachel's neck stood on end. Goosebumps erupted over her arms. She fought the urge to slam her foot on the accelerator and flee. The voice seemed to seep into her very being, wrapping around her like icy tendrils. It whispered of forgotten paths and ancient evils, of souls lost and never found. The radio fuzzed and crackled again. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the voice ceased. Silence descended once more, heavier and more oppressive than before. But now the silence was filled with a new kind of terror. The wind outside seemed to whisper her name, carrying with it the echoes of the chilling voice. Each gust brought a fresh wave of fear, crashing over her and stealing her breath. Through the deluge, a figure materialized on the roadside ahead. A woman draped in a long white dress stood motionless by the edge of the trees. Her hair, long and black, streamed in the wind like seaweed caught in a current. Her face, pale and gaunt, was turned towards Rachel. A macabre grin stretched across her lips. Rachel slammed on the brakes, the car skidding dangerously on the slick asphalt. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the symphony of the storm. The woman in white didn't move. She remained rooted to the spot, her grin widening into a grotesque mockery of a smile. Her eyes, hollow and black, seemed to bore into Rachel's soul. Panic seized Rachel. She fumbled for the gear shift, desperate to get away from this apparition, but the engine sputtered and died, plunging the car into darkness. The headlights flickered and went out, leaving her trapped in a cocoon of suffocating blackness. The only light came from the intermittent flashes of lightning, each illuminating the woman in white with terrifying clarity. She heard it then, a soft scratching sound at the car door behind her, slow, deliberate, and filled with malice. Rachel screamed, a primal sound of pure terror that ripped from her throat. Her fingers scrabbled at the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. She was trapped, alone, at the mercy of whatever lurked outside. The storm raged on, the wind howling like a banshee. The car, with Rachel trapped inside, sat alone on that desolate stretch of road. Local legend has it that if you listen closely on a stormy night, you can still hear the chilling voice on the radio, a haunting reminder of the night Rachel disappeared. Some say they've seen a woman in white on that road, her laughter echoing through the trees, a chilling testament to the darkness that lies hidden in the shadows. And what of Rachel? No trace of her or her car was ever found. She vanished that night, swallowed whole by the storm and the secrets it held. Her story serves as a chilling reminder. Some roads are not meant to be traveled, especially when the storm clouds gather and the whispers in the wind carry a warning.